Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So I don't mean to downgrade my videos or anything, but this video is not going to be exactly the most exciting video. The shop, like I said in previous videos, is taken off. I got several customer cars coming in the next few days, including this one. So I think what we're going to be doing is this right here has a whole list of stuff that needs done, including timing belt service, brakes, transmission pans leaking, all kinds of goodies on that. I got a Hyundai outside that's overheating really bad, and then I have an Explorer? No, an Escape. An Escape coming in tomorrow for tie rod ends and sway bar end links, so there we go. Here we go! So the first thing we're going to tackle is we're going to see why this Hyundai is overheating. They say it's water pump, which it might be, but he's saying he's starting to get white smoke out of the exhaust, so I'm guessing he overheated it so many times that it probably popped the head gasket. Got it in here. The first thing I noticed when I started the car, the fans were running, and the HVAC was off, and it was cold. Like, it's been sitting out there for probably 5 hours. Check the oil. It looks like it has been changed in 87,000 miles. Pulled the cap off, the oil cap, and there was no milkiness or anything. It's got no coolant in it, and the check engine light's on, so I'll probably check that, just see what that is. We're gonna start the diagnosticating process right now.
Doctor?
There is a lot of greenness on top of the transmission. Right there, if you can see a little bit. Looks like the thermostat housing's blowing coolant out of it. All right, so just got back from O'Reilly's, and surprisingly, actually, they don't have the thermostat gasket for the Hyundai, the 1.6 liter Fury. So I pulled in the Escape, and we're gonna do sway bar end links and tie rod ends because, well, I'll show you once I get the wheel off how bad these are. So I'm not sure how well you're gonna be able to see it, but you can see the boot is blown out, and if I move it back and forth, can't really see, probably on camera you can't really see much movement, but there's a lot of movement there and you can hear it. So I have a feeling I'm gonna have to get the torches out to get this sway bar end links off, but we'll find out. Here, I'll show you the left side. The left side was a lot worse. I don't know if you can see it because I'm moving the camera. But that knocking, that is the tie rod end in the spindle. All right. Right side tie rod end and sway bar link are off. We had to have a little persuasion party with the cutoff wheel. Okay, right side is done. New sway bar end link, new tie rod end. These are Delphi. That's what I'm using. I like these. I have used Delphi products, but they're not serviceable. That's the only thing I don't like. So they don't have a greaser. All right, all done. So definitely not too bad with the proper tools and the spinning circular persuasion. It's on the ground, steering wheel is still straight, so I'm gonna torque the wheels down, and job one is finished. Just got back from my test drive. She handles like a Ferrari. So I'm going to clean up my mess, and then probably get that Hyundai back in here and prepare it for tomorrow, and then after we're done with that, we get to work on that, the soul.
I have no soul.
I got the Hyundai back in here. Both the gaskets came in. So we're gonna replace the water outlet gasket and the thermostat. All right, so coolant is draining. Just a flathead screwdriver, take out the coolant drain plug in the middle of the radiator. I got the car up on the jack to kind of lean it this way because the thermostat is on the driver's side, so I'm gonna lean it up. That way if there's any coolant in the block, it all goes to the other side and I don't get stuff all over my floor. All right, so your lower radiator hose comes up into the thermostat housing. The thermostat housing appears to be held on by, it looks like 3 12mm bolts. So we're gonna change the thermostat and its gasket, but we're also gonna change this whole assembly here. Right where it mounts to the block back here, we're gonna change that outlet. It's called an outlet, water outlet gasket. This guy right here. We're gonna change that as well because I'm not sure exactly where it's leaking, but we're gonna change them both. All right, got everything apart. Very simple, very, very easy. Everything was 12mm, and if you have a pair of 45-degree pliers and a pair of channel locks, that's pretty much all you need. Here, that is your water outlet. It is bolted by 2 studs. It only has 2 studs holding that whole thing to the block, and it has 6 hoses coming out of it. I was really surprised when it was only basically 2 studs holding that thing on. Here's the new gasket for the water outlet housing. Like I said, just 2 studs. That was it. If I was a betting man, I would say that the thermostat housing is where the leak was coming from, because that gasket, they're both paper gaskets, and that does not look very good. So I have to say, under pressure, that was blowing the coolant out, and the housing itself does not look great either. I'm gonna clean everything up, basically. I'm gonna clean everything up before I put it back on. Yeah, so that housing right there has both your radiator hoses, your heater core hoses. It's got all kinds of stuff going to it. It's got 2 smaller hoses. I'm guessing that goes to the intake. But yeah, that is basically your coolant central. That's where all the coolant goes. I'm gonna clean everything up, make it all shiny and new. That way it seals correctly, and then actually torque the bolts down to proper spec, because taking it apart, nothing was tight. Like I said, I'm gonna get everything cleaned up and we're gonna put her back together. We're gonna put some coolant in it, start it up, bleed it, pressure test it, and out the door she goes. Sorry, heater's going, gotta yell. So, got everything somewhat clean. I'm gonna take them in the house and use some Dawn dish soap on them and a brush, get all the dirt and crap off before we start the assembling process. So I'll be back in 2 seconds. All right, all clean-ish, kind of. Better than it was, no loose dirt. So we're gonna start putting everything back together. Right here, water outlet housing is on, thermostat housing is on. I went ahead and used a 1/4-inch drive ratchet to tighten everything up because I have the strength of 10 men. So now we're going to hook up all the hoses and put some coolant in it, I guess. That's about where we're at. All right, there we go. All put back together. I'm gonna throw the drain plug back in the radiator, put the air box on, and we'll fill her with coolant. All right, let her run for a little bit, suck that coolant down, and then we'll probably do a pressure test just to be safe. All right, so she's out there running. You can probably hear all 1.6 liters of fury. She's been out running there, say about 25 minutes or so she's been out running. I go out about every couple minutes and rev it up and get everything circulating. Heat is hot, thermostat has opened. The reason why it's still out there is because I'm getting some bubbling in the funnel still. And it's not like bloop, bloop, you know, it's not like a few here and there. It's a bunch, and they're big. And usually when you have a lot of big bubbles coming up through that funnel, I'm guessing you guys can guess. So the bubbles have not stopped in the last 10 minutes. So I'm gonna pull it back in, throw the pressure tester on it, let it sit for a little bit and see if the pressure drops. And then I'm gonna put the cap on it and take it for a test drive, because I have a feeling once I put that cap on and it builds pressure, if it's got a head gasket, then we're gonna find out. And if it does overheat or start to overheat with the cap on it, then we are going to exit this here road of diagnostication, and we're going to get on another road of diagnostication for a head gasket. So stay tuned. Well, so this is lovely. So I got the pressure tester on it, and I got about, the cap is 0.9 bar, and I got about half a bar in it, 0.5. And I hear something sizzling. There's another hose up by the exhaust manifold that is leaking. Gotta fix that now, so I'm gonna have to go back to O'Reilly's. So I guess we're taking a break from the old Hyundai, and we're gonna start working on the Kia. Here's a list of everything we're doing to that Kia Soul. So, detail, I'm gonna give it a full detail. Front struts, the left front spring is broke actually. Front and rear brakes. The trans pan is leaking, so we're going to fix that. Bleed the brakes. She blew a brake line, took it to another shop, and it's like they didn't even bleed the brakes at all from replacing the lines. Oil change, serpentine belt, tune-up to plug through the wires, timing belt, water pump, and the window switch. And my front porch looks like Santa came. Actually, it was FedEx, but that poor old lady, whew. She was like 5 foot tall trying to lift a whole bunch of Rock Auto boxes. So I tell you what, when we're done with this thing, she's gonna be ready for the Rolex 24 at Daytona. NGK Iridium spark plugs, NGK high performance coated blue spark plug wires, Power Stop Evolution ceramic pads all the way around, Power Stop Evolution coated rotors all the way around, Dayco serpentine belts, Monroe struts, And I'm not really sure about the timing belt, how much horsepower it can take. It's an AC Delco. I couldn't get Gates because it was unavailable. So yes, with all these parts, it's pretty much race car. Got the hose for that Hyundai. It's an expensive little hose. This little guy right here, not cheap. So I'm gonna put this hose on, get the Hyundai done. We'll go for a test drive, make sure it's good. Get the Hyundai done, and then we're gonna focus on the Kia. Hose has changed, coolant is bled, thermostat has opened. Hot heat, no overheating. We're gonna take it for a drive and see what happens, see if it builds any pressure, because again today, even after changing the hose and bleeding the pressure or bleeding the system again, there are still a lot of bubbles coming out of that funnel. Like big bubbles, blipping bubbles, not like little drips or little blah, blah, blah. We're talking bubbles. Well, it's been over 10 miles and the gauge hasn't moved and the heat is hot. So I stopped once already to check for leaks and nothing's leaking. So I'll throw the pressure tester on it and see if it holds pressure, just for shats and giggles. And then I'm gonna tell them to come get it and keep an eye on it, I guess. I mean, I really can't do much more if it's not overheating. All right, so I need to apologize because this video is all over the place. I'm jumping all over, back and forth, up and down. So what you just watched was the Hyundai. That was 2 days ago. The plan was after the Hyundai was done, I was gonna go work on my dad's truck for an hour or two and then come back and work on the Kia. Well, dad's truck took almost 4 or 5 hours, so didn't come back and work on the Kia at all. And then yesterday was New Year's. So today is New Year's Day, and then today we're gonna work on the Kia. So I apologize, this video is everywhere. All right, let's take a gander at what we're getting into here. So timing belt looks fairly straightforward and simple. It's single overhead cam, so it shouldn't be too bad. We do have to support the engine because we have to take out that motor mount. Water pump is not timing belt driven, so that is nice. I got all new serpentine belts. Plugs, wires, pretty straightforward. We'll roll underneath and I'll show you what's going on under there. So it only has 106,000 miles on it, so it's still fairly clean underneath for being a 2011. Oil filter is leaking, which we're gonna replace with the service. We'll put a good oil filter on it, and then the transmission pan is leaking pretty good, or seeping. You probably can't see it because my light. So it is seeping pretty good. We're going to drain the tranny and basically do a flush on it and fix the gasket. So you may have heard me earlier mention when I was reading the list of things to do, one of her complaints is the brake pedal. And I agree, it is super spongy, and pulling the car in here, I had to push the pedal almost to the floor before I got any kind of braking. What happened was, she popped a rear brake line, drained the entire system of fluid, limped it to a shop. The shop replaced both rear lines all the way to the front, and what I'm guessing is they never bled the front at all. Like, the wheels were, I had to get a hammer to hammer the wheel off, both fronts, and the lug nuts came off hard. The back came off with no problem. So I don't know how this was okay to leave this shop with the brake pedal feeling the way it does, but that's what I'm guessing is they only bled the rear and never touched the front. Also, what helps my case of them not taking off the front wheels and bleeding the brakes is the front wheels had a whole bunch of brake dust built up in the wheel, like they were never taken off. The rear was perfectly clean. When I took the rear wheels off, no dust was in the wheel. Front had a lot of rust and a lot of dust in the wheel. So what we're gonna do is when we replace the pads and rotors all the way around, we're gonna re-bleed the entire system. I really apologize, guys. I gotta yell because the heater's going. It's cold out and I gotta have my heater going. But we're gonna tackle the timing belt first and the water pump because it's the most in depth. And then we're gonna move on to the other things. Yeah, digging into this, it's definitely not too hateful. Belts came off fairly easy. Remove the power steering, get it out of your way. Alternator, take that belt off. Take the AC compressor belt off. Remove the water pump pulley, remove the crank pulley. That's probably going to be my biggest, well, it might not fight too bad. Support the motor mount, timing belt cover, and that's pretty much it. The crank pulley is off. The only thing we got left to do is get the motor hoist over here and support the engine so I can take that motor mount off. Crank pulley was a 22 millimeter if you're curious, and it did come off kind of hard, so definitely impacts are needed. Engine hoist is hooked up, motor mount is off, engine is sitting there dangling. I got a safety jack stand and 2x4 underneath the oil pan just in case it falls. So we are ready to remove the bottom half of the motor mount and the timing cover, and we can change this to timing belt. The timing belt cover is in 2 pieces, so you just take the top off. You don't have to worry about removing this at all. Take the top off, take the bottom off, and we can get to the timing belt. So timing cover is off, and all the timing marks are lined up so we can take the belt off. So on the cam, you have a yellow mark right here that lines up with this notch right here. And then on the inside, you have this hole. And on the inner side here, there's a red mark that you have to line this hole up with. And then you have another timing mark over here. And of course on your crank, there's a mark on the crank as well that you just line up with a notch in the timing cover. So not too bad, we're getting ready to take the belt off. Also, earlier in the video, I mentioned that the water pump was accessory drive belt driven or serpentine belt driven, not timing belt driven. But you have to take the timing belt and idler off to get the water pump off. So you have to literally you can't just take the water pump off. You have to take all the timing components off anyway. So while you're doing a water pump or vice versa doing a timing belt, you might as well just do both because you have to take them all off anyway. Yeah, this is a learning experience for me. I've never done one of these. So yeah, you gotta remove the timing belt to get the water pump off. No big deal, we're gonna do that anyway. So coolant is draining now. We're gonna get the alternator bracket off, the water pump off, replace the water pump, and then put the timing belt back on. Get the motor mount set back in so I don't like engines just hanging there. Water pump is now off. And something very interesting I just noticed, the AC Delco timing belt kit is Gates. It's Gates stuff, just in a different box. Water pump says Gates right on it. Timing belt says Gates right on it. And the idler and tensioner both say Gates on it. So literally it's a Gates kit in an AC Delco box. Timing belt is on, it's in time, everything is good. The tensioner's a little funky on these. I did a PT Cruiser timing belt and water pump about 2-3 weeks ago. It's got the same style of tensioner, but to set the tension on this, it's a little bit different. It's a little tricky actually. So what you have the center hole there that is for your bolt to bolt it to the block. So you tighten, you snug it up, but you leave it somewhat loose. You take a 6mm Allen key and you rotate this around. Here, if you can see my finger, rotate it around to where this little arrow right here lines up in between that little notch. So right there. So once that arrow, you rotate this around right here, and once that arrow gets in there, you tighten this bolt down. So it's a little weird, and then you rotate the engine around a couple of times by hand to make sure everything's good, and then you recheck it to make sure that arrow is still in that little window. So it's kind of funky, but I guess it works. I'm sure this style of tensioner is more common than I'm used to. I'm used to Subaru where it's hydraulic pressure, so you just get everything in time and you pull the pin, and it's a hydraulic cylinder that pushes the tensioner down. So my goal for tonight is to get the timing belt job and water pump job finished up, and then put coolant in it and start it up, make sure everything's good. I currently got some burgers on the grill, so I'm gonna go attend to them, and then I'm gonna come back and finish this up, and then probably gonna tackle struts next, and then brakes, and then I don't know. We'll just go with the flow. Timing belt cover is on, motor mount is on and tight, crank pulley is on and tight, and engine hoist is up and out of the way. I went ahead and started, let it run for about five or so seconds. There was no love making between the valve train and the piston tops, so it's in time. So I think we're going to put the new belts on right there, and then probably do plugs and wires next. But first, I have to get my burgers off the grill. We're moving right along. Spark plugs and wires are done. Timing belt water pump are completely done. I went ahead and started putting coolant in it. Let it run for about 15-20 minutes. Let everything circulate. I think now we are going to change the transmission pan gasket. Transmission pan is off. It's held on by a bunch of these little 10mm bolts. Here's the transmission pan. I got it cleaned up. So I am replacing the filter. And if you buy a filter, it comes with a gasket. But from the factory, they are siliconed on. So I'm gonna throw probably a gasket on it that comes with the filter. We're gonna change the filter real quick, then put the pan back on. There's the filter, held on by 4 10mm bolts. It's got the 2 magnets that we will clean up and put on the new filter. But the reason why I'm replacing this filter, besides having 100,000 miles on it, is because when I stuck my little finger up in that hole, it was very gritty and very dark fluid, almost like a paste, like what you find on the magnets here. Let me get a little, that right there. So That's why we are replacing the said filter. All right, so fast forward a day or so. I apologize. I'm kind of in a hurry, so I don't have a lot of time to film, but basically we're ready to throw the tires back on it and sit on the ground, go for a test drive, change the front struts. I will show you the broken one. There's the broken strut. Both front struts were super easy to change, literally very, very easy to change. And the brakes all the way around were very easy to change as well. Now to the bleeding of the brakes, I put my bleeder on the rear brakes, the rear calipers, and basically just sucked out air for about 5 minutes. So there was no fluid whatsoever going to the rear brakes. I went through, I bled everything again, probably half a quart of fluid, just trying to get everything back in the system. Now she has a nice firm pedal, and we are going to throw the wheels back on, torque the wheels down, go for a test drive. Everything is done except the detail. I'm gonna go for a drive, go look at my dad's truck, come back, clean up the shop, and then start doing a detail. Test drive, successful. No leaking, shifting good, still in time, that's good. And it's stopping. When you put your foot on the pedal, it actually stops. Like I said earlier, I am in kind of a hurry because it is Saturday, and Monday I leave for 2 weeks for work travel. So I have to hurry up and get this done tonight, and then tomorrow I have to work on my dad's truck again. So now the only thing left is the detailing. So interior detailing, because it's snowing outside, I can't do exterior detailing, otherwise it'd be very cold. Interior detailing is the last thing. The front seats are already out. Sorry, heater's going again. I'll show you some before and after video. There's the interior. I think she plans on pumping some iron while she drives. Gotta stay fit, even in the car. So this is the interior. It will not look like this when I'm done with it. That's faux show. Almost done with the interior. I'm gonna do one more wipe down, and I got a couple spots on the carpet that still need touched up, and then finish up the back seat. After the back seat, I'm gonna start on the door jambs and focus and the door panels, and then we should be about done. Throw the seats back in it, the floor mats, I can take them in and wash them in my bathtub, and we should be done. And I already texted her, said it should be done tonight, so tomorrow, get to go back to its owner.
One eternity later.
Hey everybody, I need to apologize. This video is being posted very, very late. What you just watched was like literally 2 weeks ago. So I worked on the Soul Saturday, and then I worked on my dad's truck on that Sunday, and then I left for 2 weeks for work travels. So I am back home now, and I was able to finish up the editing, and it's posted now, obviously, because you're watching it. But I apologize, posted way too late. Both cars are still kicking butt, or actually all 3 cars are still kicking butt. The Soul, the Kia Soul, was actually my aunt's, so I get updates and I ask her how it's doing. She's like, perfectly good, stopping good, running good, so that is fantastic. Like I said, I travel for work in January and February, so the videos are going to be kind of sporadic and kind of random. I do like to keep putting out content, but the problem is when I come home from my 2 weeks away, I would like to visit my family and spend time with my wife and my future race car driver, so YouTube is actually kind of put on hold on the back burner. With that said, I have plenty of videos, lots of content coming up, including her car. That's going to be a big one because we basically going to have to tear outside. We're ripping the wrap off, basically. That's all I'm gonna give you, and we're gonna kind of redo some things. So with that said, thank you for supporting the channel and watching the videos. A lot of content coming up, WRX stuff. So with that said, thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.